Hey everybody, and welcome back to Nerd Radio, your national NerdNet Radio Direct. I am your host, Nick. Here with me today is Nate. And so we already went through all our video games of the year, and today we're going to be talking about movies. Let's get into those movies. What is the best? What is the worst? We got drama, comedy, horror, also other stuff, because I need to scroll down. Animated, action, biggest surprises, biggest disappointments, movies we missed, and the best overall. So let's get straight into it with drama. We got more drama than yo mama.
We got some tea on this category right here. Let me tell you that much.
I don't understand that reference.
What, the tea part or the really awful like censoring? Oh, the like Kermit the Frog. Like you got the tea, you got some drama. You know the Kermit the Frog meme where it's like, that's none of my business?
I get the meme, but like I don't understand what that has to do with drama.
Because if you have tea, you've got drama. Like you're talking crap about someone, like you're talking about someone.
I don't know. I don't drink tea in general, so like...
You should. It's good for your health.
Oh, so now I'm too fat for you. You.
No,
okay,
that's not true.
Get started.
So for movies this year for drama, to start off, we have Glass. We've got Marriage Story, Captive State, and Us. Those are all the nominees that we have for that category. Starting off with Glass, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those that it was... I think underwhelming in comparison to Split. I think out of the trilogy, if you want, I mean, it is technically a trilogy. Out of the trilogy, Split is hand over fist the best one out of all of them.
Yeah.
And it may be just because I saw Unbreakable only this year. Yeah. I didn't actually see Unbreakable when it came out, so it was very boring to me, and it felt like a movie out of time, especially with the superhero movies we have nowadays. So, but Glass, it's one of those that what it did was really cool, and how decades later we're finishing out the story of this world and actually starting a new story technically.
Yeah.
And just to have the superhero approach of making you think you're crazy, like you don't have this power. It's very fascinating.
That was very intriguing, and I really like that. I feel like the biggest mistake this movie did was its marketing, because they tried to make it seem like, oh, this is the big epic conclusion, and all they showed was like the last act of the movie, and that's very misleading, because that's why it's in the drama and not the action category, because I felt like this was way more of a drama. It was way more of a thinker, and I really enjoyed it. I honestly really, probably way more than you at this point, but I really enjoyed it. I felt like if we're ranking it, it definitely goes Split, Glass, Unbreakable. Because
I would say that.
I mean, it's just, I really liked... I mean, first, I don't know, if you were expecting like this big bombastic thing from the person who brought you Unbreakable and Split, it's just like, you're an idiot for thinking that in the first place, therefore you got let down. So it's like, no, like there's so many people complaining about like, oh, it just didn't seem like and I'm like, no, this is exactly what I was expecting. And so like, it was great. It was a very, I mean, the one thing that holds true between Unbreakable, Split, and Glass was very much the storytelling. Unbreakable, one of the reasons it is kind of boring is because it's a origin story, and it really is like an origin story. Like Spider-Man from the Raimi trilogy, for instance, he gets his power within the first like 10 minutes, and then you get to kind of see how he becomes Spider-Man, yada yada. Whereas like the first 10 minutes is kind of that 2-hour Unbreakable movie. So it's just a very different type of movie, and I feel like that's just what makes it so cool or whatever. But yeah, I really liked it. Then the second one you mentioned was Marriage Story. That one was really good. Scarlett Johansson, Adam Driver, basically they get a divorce, and so it's a story about how they got together and now what's happening now that they're getting a divorce or whatever. Honestly, the only negative I'd say about it, like the acting, freaking superb. Just very good acting on both of the main characters' sides. The only thing I would have to say is I would have liked to seen this movie more from both of the perspectives, because there's this moment in the movie where we kind of switch to Adam Driver's perspective, and Scarlett Johansson's character comes off as a conniving, manipulative bitch. Like, without getting too much away, basically there's this one part where they said they weren't going to use lawyers for the divorce, but she goes and uses a lawyer. And then that lawyer goes around to all the other lawyers in the area and meets with them, because even if you just meet with the lawyer, they can't represent you. So they purposely went to all these lawyers so that he couldn't use that lawyer. And I'm like, that is messed up. Granted, it's probably the divorce lawyer that made her do it, but still, it's like you agreed to it, you know? And that's just one example of all the effed up things that Scarlett Johansson's character did. But like I said, that's the one negative, is that, like, I really feel like they should have shown it from both angles. They should have made it more like of a, you know, Civil War type of situation where there wasn't one person who was more right than the other. Instead, it's like Scarlett Johansson was an evil bitch until kind of the last little bit, and it's like, oh, I guess she's not that bad. Like, I don't know, it was just dumb.
Yeah, big old Kylo Ren and, and Black Widow. Yeah.
Yep.
No, when I saw the trailers for that, I'm like, God, this looks good. Like, this looks like a whole, like, just not a wholesome, but like a wholehearted, like, this is going to be a phenomenal experience. And I have also heard that Scarlett Johansson, this is one of her best roles, so I don't know if you can corroborate that or not.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the best performances she's had.
Acting, you know, like, she actually acts in this. Not that she actually doesn't act in Black Widow, but it's just different, because it's so different when you're just like, I'm going to kick your butt, versus real, like, dramatic acting. So, yeah, I definitely have to agree with that.
Yeah. It's one of those that it's definitely on my docket. Mm-hmm. Kind of going into where, you know, which we've established a little bit more about what movies Nate has or has not seen this this year. So this is definitely one of those, but it's one that is on my list, like an immediate watch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another one we have on the list is Us, the second movie from Jordan Peele following Get Out. And man, this movie, it's one of those, this is in my opinion one of those movies that'll go down as a cultural thing. Like, this movie is a part of the culture when we think about either this decade or, you know, the past few years. Like, you remember this, you know, it's one of those, it's like it stays with you, and the memes and stuff live on, and it's so relevant still. But it's one of those that with Get Out, I really enjoyed. I didn't love it or think it was, you know, I mean, it was definitely highbrow, top tier filmmaking, but I wasn't like, you know, obviously giving it critic praise.
Yeah.
Us is one of those where I feel like he really refined what he did with Get Out and told, I think, a better story. I think Us has a better story than Get Out, because Get Out kind of seemed a little more like thriller, all over the place kind of thing. This had a clear, like, beginning, middle, and end with some twists, but just the atmosphere of it. You have certain filmmakers where you're like, that's their style. Like, I can see a Jon Favreau film and be like, yeah, he directed that. You know, I can see the same thing with Jordan Peele now, that's a Jordan Peele type movie. But it's one of those that it stays with you for sure, which is interesting because that's kind of the core concept of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, then we have Captive State. This one was really cool because, like, instead of a movie about, like, an alien invasion while it's happening, this is an alien invasion pretty much after they won. They've already won. It's been years. It's like there's rules and regulations and stuff. So this is very much the story of, like, an underground fight. Like, not only have they've taken over the entire world. They have people in their government, like, you know, humans in their government and who are sympathizers and stuff like that. It's a really good story, has a really good twist at the end, and just, like, really gut-wrenching, like, as far as how serious it is. Almost too serious, to the point where it's just like, I wouldn't call it boring because it was definitely interesting all the way through, but it definitely it was really freaking serious. So yeah. So I mean, what's your personal drama of the year? I feel like it's pretty obvious, but go on.
I would have to say Us for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glass I really enjoyed, but, and I didn't have high expectations like you were saying, so I wasn't one of those people, but I feel like it just kind of fell flat, especially with how Split was, how I think that's just a phenomenal piece of film, of cinema. Like, it's just one of those, it's got a great story that you understand, and, I don't know, but I would have to say my personal pick would be Us out of this category.
I pick Us too.
Oh, you and me and you, both of us together.
Marriage Story, I feel like, is the super obvious one just because it's probably the most drama out of the drama that we picked. So, I mean, that's my personal take. Unfortunately, other than Glass is really the only one that both of us saw, but if I'm being honest, I don't feel like that deserves the TX3 drama of the year, so we're just going to go on our personal ones for this one. So then let's move on to comedy. We got comedy, we have The Long Shot, Detective Pikachu, Booksmart, Always Be My Maybe, and Zombieland Double Tap. So the only one you saw, go ahead and say... Sorry, I'm throwing you under the bus.
With Zombieland Double Tap. That was the only out of this list comedy that I saw this year. And, it's one of those that this is one of those movies that clearly did not exceed my expectations, but perfectly met them, and I was very content with it. It's one of those that with situations like this where it's basically a decade later that we have a sequel for this, it can be either really great, it could be like, oh, you're just trying to, it could be either really great or really terrible. This was one of those, it was a great sequel. It had new gags in it, like with the whole kind of replacement of the Bill Murray thing, and it basically is expanding on this world of Zombieland and told a really, really good continuation story. Only problem I have with this movie is Abigail Breslin. I think that,
Who's that?
I don't know what's going on. She's the little girl.
Oh, yeah.
She was a little girl, and she was also in Little Miss Sunshine. She looks rough in this film.
Yeah, I hear that she's out of the story, pretty much. Like, they kind of just write her out of it, sort of.
Yeah, she is. But also, like I said, she definitely looks like a child actor, like a grown-up child actor. Like, she looks rough, but
it's like Elijah
funny.
Wood. Like, even though he's 30, maybe even going into his 40s, you see him in a movie nowadays, he's still like, "I'm sorry, how old are you?"
yeah, it's good. It's definitely funny. It has a lot of laugh out loud moments, and it's just a really good continuation. Good sequel.
Yeah. So then all the good comedies, let's talk about those. Because some people actually watch movies. The Long Shot is the one with Seth Rogen and... oh, God, I almost called her Catherine Zeta-Jones. No, Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron.
If you've seen...
that one's really cool. I mean, it's political without getting too political. I mean, they could have definitely made most of the jokes politically based, but instead it was just like, here's this stoner, and he happens to fall in love with somebody who was, back in high school, but now she's kind of running for president or something. It's cool. It's kind of just a throwaway comedy or whatever. Speaking of throwaway comedy, Detective Pikachu, there's tons of Pokemon fans out there that just don't really like this movie, and they're just like, this is so dumb, yada yada yada. I loved it. It was fine. I'm not a hardcore Pokemon fan, but I know enough about them tangentially that it's like, I really enjoyed all the little Easter eggs. I liked the story. The story was fine. And in general, I feel like it definitely deserves to be on this list. Speaking of deserves to be on this list, Booksmart. The only thing I'd have to say about this one is that it took maybe a little bit too long to get started. Kind of like in Superbad, where, they start going out to parties and stuff, and so it's fun, But in Superbad, it was really funny before they even started trying to get the alcohol. Whereas this, it's like, it doesn't get funny until they they get to the point, just like in Superbad, where like they're trying to get alcohol, or they're basically trying to make it to the party, essentially. So it takes way too long. Granted, it really establishes their character, but at the same time, they're just boring and they're kind of stuck up because they're book smart. These are the nerds, and so they're book smart, and so they kind of just seem pretentious, and I don't know.
So I'm going to be...
Go ahead.
I'm going to be 100% honest. When I first saw the trailer for this and I saw that it was Olivia Wilde's directorial debut.
Oh, yeah.
I was worried about this because I like Victoria Wilde. No?
Olivia Wilde? You literally just said it.
I literally just said it. I like Olivia Wilde, but especially recently in the whole kind of the Trump presidency, she's gotten really woke on social media in a lot of ways. And so, in some ways. So I was a little bit worried about this, but whenever I saw everything about this, I was like, oh, this looks like this generation's Superbad.
In a way, yeah. Yeah, it is. Like, I like the premise of it. Basically, the premise of it is these two girls are book smart. They're the nerds. They're the ones that stick to homework. Their good idea of a Friday night is them finishing up their homework and then just sitting around and watching TV together. And so they get into a really prestigious college and they're so excited. There's this scene where basically she's getting made fun of. And so she comes out and she kind of, pretentiously kind of, makes fun of them instead. And she's like, actually, I'm going to Yale. And she's like, wait, what? And so then the three people that are making fun of them, one's going to Yale and the other two are going to like Harvard and Brown, I think, or something like that. Really prestigious schools or whatever. And she's like, but you guys don't do anything. They're like, no, we just like to have fun. And so it was this epiphany for her where she literally goes out in the hall and is like, where the fuck are you going to college? We're not supposed to tell anybody. Where the fuck are you going to college? And so she basically finds out that all these people that she thought just partied and everything are still going to college. So then she has this realization. It's like, we skipped all the partying because we thought that we needed to focus on school to get to a good college. Whereas apparently we could have done both this whole time. So it's about them having their last chance at being, rebels, essentially. And so that's the overall premise of the movie. And I feel like they executed it very well. Always Be My Maybe is a very kind of by the numbers romantic comedy, although I love the two main Asian actors in this. I felt like they did it was really funny. And this is the scene of the year, Nate. I'm talking about any movie of all. This is the scene of the year when the Asian girl is dating somebody. Of course, the Asian guy gets kind of jealous or whatever. But then it turns out that it's Keanu fucking Reeves. And not Keanu Reeves playing a character. No, Keanu Reeves. It is actually Keanu Reeves, and of course they make some Matrix jokes and everything, but it's so funny because he plays this like exaggerated version of himself where he's like, namaste, and he's like, you speak your truth, and just they go to a restaurant and they like sorry. They go to a restaurant where they have to listen to the animal that they're eating. It's the most absurd thing. And so Keanu Reeves is eating a steak while listening to a cow, and he just is like crying. He's like, thank you for your sacrifice. It's just the most absurd thing. And I loved every goddamn, that one scene in the movie just makes the entire movie worth it. Because like I said, it's very by the numbers, but that one scene, oh God. And then eventually they go on to another scene and he's still in it. Oh my God. But it's so freaking hilarious. Oh my God.
Yeah. I had wondered what that whole, because I remember seeing that being a thing. Everyone's like, oh my God, Keanu Reeves. I was like, was he Keanu? Like, what was why was that so special? And then I had seen bits and pieces of it, and I was like, oh my god. But yeah, I'm with you. Both of those actors, the main actors in the film, I love. And I haven't seen her in so much of many things as much as I have the. I don't remember his name, unfortunately.
I mean, she's a stand-up comedian, so I feel like this might be one of her first movies, or at least one of the first movies where she's like a main person.
Hey, at least it's a better movie than Trainwreck. Hey-o. Trainwreck was literally a train wreck.
Anyways, so what's your personal... Oh, wait, the only fucking one you've seen. Back to me.
So, no, I actually... The one that I think that I would pick probably would be Booksmart, because Long Shot, it's one of those... Long Shot seemed like a classic Rogan movie, like a Judd Apatow kind of, more evolved. And it's one of those I like, but I like the fact and the concept of Booksmart being a more evolved, like smarter, modern version of Superbad, because Superbad's, whether you like it or not, a classic. Yeah. So I personally, out of this list, would pick Booksmart.
Yeah. I would aggrieve. I would aggrieve. I'm so sad about agreeing with you that it's aggrieving. Anyways, but I agree. Booksmart, even though yes, it does take a little while to get started. It is overall, I'd say, the best comedy because, I mean, it is kind of smart. You know what I mean? Some of these are just kind of throwaway. Always Be My Maybe, very throwaway. Long Shot. If you like stoner kind of movies, then there you go. You like that. I feel like Booksmart is a comedy that anybody could watch and enjoy, except for maybe, minorities, because this is a very freaking white movie. Even though there's like kind of woke in it and everything, but it's still super freaking white movie. Anyways, so yeah, I think we can totally agree on that, which makes it also TX3's comedy of the year. So let's move on to our horror/thriller.
So this is the funny part for me is I've seen more of these movies I feel this year than I have of anything else, and I don't watch horror movies.
Right. Yeah.
So for horror thriller, we have Happy Death Day 2 U, Crawl, Ready or Not, and In the Tall Grass. So, Happy Death Day 2 U is kind of similar to Zombieland Double Tap in a way, where it's like...
Only it didn't take 10 years.
Yes, only it didn't take 10 years, but it's one of those, it's like, how could they make a sequel to a movie that's basically a Groundhog Day story?
Right.
And then actually up the ante from there and go comic book bat crazy and it still be entertaining and like, oh, this is a good movie. That's Happy Death Day 2 U. Like, it's one of those I was not expecting to be as good as it was.
Yeah.
Like, walked out fully satisfied, giggity, and just enjoyed the movie absolutely throughout. Did not feel like regurgitated film content, anything like that. It felt fresh. Even the flashback scenes felt fresh.
Yeah. I totally agree. Happy Death Day 2 U, to a certain extent, is kind of just a throwaway, but at the same time, like you said, they take everything from the first one and I feel like make it better. Not only that, but actually kind of explaining how the first one even happened in the first place. And that's kind of cool. And it wasn't like this thrown together, mess of a, plot. It was very much like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Now we know why it happened. And also like her reaction to being stuck in a death loop again, and having that, like, you've never seen that before, because once Groundhog Day ends, it's done. When Edge of Tomorrow ends, it's done. This is the first time it's like we've revisited a death loop. And I feel like it's a huge accomplishment that they were able to do that and not make it feel like a money grab. Because, I mean, if they made another Edge of Tomorrow, it would feel like a money grab. You know what I mean? It would just be like, oh, well, the first one did really well. And not only that, but this came out pretty soon after Happy Death Day. You
mean like Top Gun Maverick? Huh? No, that actually does look like a good movie.
No, just no. So then the second one was Crawl. This is the one with the crocodiles during the hurricane.
which looks like everything I would love. Like, I again hate scary movies. Well, wife's gotten me more used to it over these past few years. But
She's
this is one of those
you
I
to
saw
the dark side.
This is one of those that I saw the trailer, multiple trailers, and I'm like, yep, this is one of those.
Yep.
Like, this is gonna be good.
Yeah,
everything about it.
I loved Crawl. It was. I hate to say this is going to be kind of a reoccurring thing that I say. It is kind of a throwaway movie, but kind of in the best way, because it's like, this isn't going to be a franchise. Even though Happy Death Day to You is really good, it's not part of a franchise. It's a one-off movie that we never need a sequel to ever. And that's okay. And just like what happens in this movie, my God, my God, especially towards the end, like what happens to Daddy. Oh my God. But it was really good. It was very tense. And nothing seemed manufactured. I mean, other than maybe the hurricane itself, obviously, but everything just felt like it made sense. You know what I mean? There's so many horror movies out there that just like, people make decisions, people do things, and it doesn't make sense. This is the one and only time that's like, maybe one thing that happened, I was like, well, that was dumb. But other than that, like, that dumb
like
thing
really
happened
good.
to a side character, so it's like, well, maybe that side character's just dumb. So it's like, it was okay. So yeah.
You mean like that really good Geico commercial? The horror movie Geico commercial where it's like they're hiding.
Exactly,
it's like, hey, look, there's a car.
Yeah. So nothing like that happens. And so, yeah, that's my point, is that like, it's just a very kind of smart one-off thing. And it can be its own little self-contained story. It doesn't need to be a part of a franchise. Doesn't need to have like Lake Placid where there's like fucking 3 of them or something. Like, what the hell? Just stop. Okay, just stop. You know, unless you set another Crawl during a freaking hurricane, then it's just going to seem forced. And so anyways, yeah. So that's my thoughts. Go on.
Speaking of self-contained, Ready or Not. Ready or Not is a really, really good isolated movie.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I can maybe see them. This is one of those, I would say there's like a 10 or 20% chance they would make another one, because the world kind of that they put together is interesting, or at least the atmosphere. But this was one of those that I just, like, it was like, hey, my mom wants to go see this movie. You want to come with? And I was like, sure. And it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, I thoroughly enjoyed everything about it. It was twisted, fun, exhilarating. Yep. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a horror movie, which is why we kind of had to make this segment a horror/thriller, because it's like a lot of these, like Happy Death Day to You is actually kind of funny, and this one is kind of funny in really dark ways. And so, but still, like, this is a really good, it's heart pounding. It has a really good pace to it. The characters make sense. There's a really, really good twist at the end. And overall, yeah, just really good movie. In the Tall Grass, this is a WTF movie for sure. It is such a weird movie, and in a lot of ways, like, I kind of saw a couple of reviews afterwards, and there's some people that just don't like this movie, but I like to call it Netflixization. There's so many times I feel like a Netflix movie gets ragged on because it exists, and people don't look at it as a movie. And like, I can even be made fun of on the internet because I'm enjoying a Netflix movie. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, there's so many instances where I feel like that happens. Like, what was the
Upgrade's a good Netflix movie that I enjoyed.
Upgrade?
No, that's not. That wasn't a Netflix movie.
You freaking
there
idiot.
was one. What Happened to Monday?
Yes, great.
I was
movie.
like, it was kind of science.
Yeah.
I was like, it's kind of sci-fi, so that's what.
Yeah. I Am
Help me with
Mother.
that.
Another really. Ooh, did that come out this year? I think it did, actually. Dude, if we had a
did.
sci-fi, that would definitely go on there. But I just felt like I couldn't think of a lot or enough of sci-fis to put on there. But I Am Mother, another really good one. But point being, In the Tall Grass is a really just weird freaking movie, and But I feel like at the same time, for the fact that it's a movie set in tall grass, and so there's not a lot of changes of scenery, the fact that it has this just interesting premise, and I liked it personally. So, I mean, I felt like it at least deserves to be on the list. So, yeah. So, what would be your personal of the year?
100% Ready or Not.
See, I'm stuck, because I do feel like Happy Death Day to You and Ready or Not are so close, and I could even be the contrarian and be like Crawl, because Crawl is just a really good high octane, thrill ride essentially. So I mean, I could even say that. So I'm thinking personally Crawl, but if there's one that we can agree on, I feel like that's definitely Ready or Not, because that ending like kind of cements it for me, because it was just so out of left field, and it was like, okay, yeah, this is freaking awesome or whatever. So as far as my personal, I'm going to go with Crawl so I can be the contrarian. But for the TX3 horror/thriller of the year is Ready or Not. So then let's move on to our animated. With our animated, we have How to Train Your Dragon, the third one, which I want to say is like The Lost World or
the Hidden World.
There you go. Abominable. Toy Story 4, and Klaus, which is the Christmas one.
So this category in particular, I'm very upset with myself just based on the fact that a lot of these I should have seen. Toy Story 4 being the primary one. This is one I should have seen in theaters. But I just, it's one of those that was like, didn't have the money, couldn't do it. But that being said, How to Train Your Dragon 3, man, like another example of DreamWorks just absolutely killing an animated, basically making a Pixar equivalent animated movie.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to story, when it comes to the actual like animation, how beautiful it looks, like realized worlds, like it's a combination between, like it feels kind of like Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar in terms of like scale.
Okay.
With like the story and style of a Pixar movie.
Definitely. I could see that.
And this one was like a great conclusion. At the very end, I teared up, man. And I haven't cared about this series really at all. I've only recently seen all of them not too long ago, So, but How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World was definitely one of those that stuck with me.
I feel like the best thing this did was give a satisfying conclusion. Because it was good would it have been good as a standalone movie? Yeah, I guess. But there is just so much, kind of like Uncharted 4 could technically be good by itself, but there's so many little nods and winks that it matters that you've seen the other ones, but you could still enjoy it by itself. And so I feel like that once again just makes it a really good movie. So as far as, the story and everything, I also just love how, looking back on it, each story had a really good theme to it, and it also was like him growing up. And so to see him now, he's grown up, he's like a man, he's becoming a man, and that was really cool. Abominable is definitely a throwaway. It's kind of like there's the abominable snowman, and he goes to like China or something, and so this girl is trying to get him back home. It's a real cute movie. I went and saw it with my daughter, obviously, and it was just kind of, like I said, throwaway, but not in a bad way. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. The funniest thing is the whooping snakes. They're called whooping snakes, and they literally just go whoop, 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 whoop. Toy Story 4, you should be burned at the stake for not seeing it. But at the same time, I was very apprehensive about seeing this because 3 wrapped everything up in a perfect bow. So for me, 4 did not need to exist. And although I still believe that, it's still a good movie by itself. It's still kind of a nice conclusion at the same time. Not as good of a conclusion as 3. I still don't think it necessarily needs to happen. But it is not a money grab. They actually told a meaningful story, and I feel like that's something to be said.
Yeah, Toy Story 3, I cried 3 times at for sure. Like it's one of those like it was a cascading crying because it was like, oh, this is the end. Okay, no, it's not, but I've already cried. Okay, now this is the end. Oh my god, I'm crying. Oh my god, I'm crying. So it kind of got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am beating myself up that I haven't seen it yet because Toy Story is my favorite Pixar series, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So then there's Klaus. This is a Netflix movie, so this is definitely one you don't have an excuse for. But Klaus, I like it. It does the whole typical like the story that was never told, or it does that typical thing. But it's interesting. It kind of retells like Santa's origin in a really interesting way. The art style, I feel like the best way to describe this is like it was. The art style is very Emperor's New Groove. Like the characters in them, even kind of the humor is very kind of Emperor's New Groove. I love the voice actors. You got, freaking J.K. Simmons. You got Edward Norton. Those are the 2 main guys. The story also is really good. Like this is one that just... This very well, especially, I hate to say this, is like, especially since it is a Netflix movie, it very well could have just been your, here's a Christmas movie. But I feel like every character has their own arc. The movie itself was just so well put together. What was that one with the robot, but with Jack Krasinski?
John Krasinski. Was, oh my God, I just saw it the other day.
Oh, it's killing me.
Let's see. Go to IMDb. John Krasinski. Keeping you entertained while I look this up right now. I'm about to find it. Promise. Where's it at? It's Next Gen.
Next Gen. Okay.
Yeah.
So that one, I feel like that was on our list last year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. That was one of those that was like really, really good.
Yes. And so I would say
one and done.
This one holds up to that. Next Gen, I feel like, it's kind of cool because it has like sci-fi and everything. And this is kind of cool because it's just like an older story. I love the humor in it. Like I said, every character has their own little story arc. And like the city that he goes to has its own story arc. And it's so interesting. It's so good. Like I expected to enjoy it by all means, but I did not expect to love it as much as I did. So what's your personal? Oh, How to Train Your Dragon, the only one you saw. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to keep throwing you under the bus.
Yeah, no, you're totally good. 2019 has not been my year for content.
Animated.
For media. Yeah. I would honestly say How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah. For sure. Like that would be my pick out of all of these.
Yeah. My personal, Klaus. Klaus is such a good movie. The fact that it's a Christmas movie is kind of secondary, even though obviously it happens around Christmas. This is very much the invention of Christmas. So even though it's quote unquote a Christmas movie, it's also kind of timeless at the same time. So if that makes any sense. So I really like it. I really love how it was done. So that's my personal. But if we chose a TX3, I would agree it definitely goes to How to Train Your Dragon. It wraps the story up in such a good way. Such a goddamn good way. And like I said, looking back at each of them and how each one of them had their own story and story arcs of each one, and nothing felt, I feel like as Panda, the Kung Fu Panda went along, they all could have just been their own movie. Whereas I feel like How to Train Your Dragon really is sequels, and not only that, but I also feel like as Panda went along, it was sequels for sequel's sake.
It was, yeah.
Whereas How to Train Your Dragon, every sequel was a sequel. It was a continuation. Every character, there was growth in every, and that's hard to do over 3 movies. Like, so many trilogies, it's so hard to do that. This is a trilogy. This is probably one of the only trilogies that is satisfying all the way through. The only other one I can think, at least off the top of my head, is the Planet of the Apes, the newer ones. So Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes. that is a very satisfying trilogy, and each one progressively got better. And then How to Train Your Dragon, that's the only other one, because everything else you could pick apart. Like Lord of the Rings, you can pick apart like Two Towers. Star Wars, you could pick apart like Return of the Jedi, and maybe even not A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. So many trilogies. It's like there's a consensus. I feel like there's a consensus that this trilogy is very satisfying, just like there's a consensus for the Pioneer games. So the TX3 animated of the year for sure. How to Train Your Dragon 3. So then let's move on to action.
Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Which, funny enough, we don't have Terminator on this list.
Because I didn't see it, because I didn't fucking want to.
I didn't either. Yeah. Well, yeah, I kind of wanted to, but it was one of those, again, it's like, I don't have the money, don't feel like it. Right. I really don't feel like it.
This out.
Yep. So to start off, we'll start off with a movie I've seen. I wouldn't say most. A good bit of these I did see. All right, so for our action category, we've got Triple Frontier, Shazam! Avengers Endgame, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, or John Wick 3 Parabellum, yeah. Spider-Man Far From Home, Six Underground, and Hobbs and Shaw. So, start off with a movie I have seen, Shazam. Shazam is definitely one of those that it was a light at the end of the tunnel at that time that it came out, because
okay, I can see where you're going with that. Okay,
yeah, the last thing we really I would say, not going to get into semantics here, not going to. Batman versus Superman, the actual extended edition cut, is a phenomenal movie as a whole, but theatrically, so far up to this point, Wonder Woman and Man of Steel were really the main ones that were like, oh, these are good.
Yeah, yeah, I can see
as far
that,
as DCEU, Wonder Woman obviously gets an edge because Man of Steel is kind of a standalone movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, true.
But this comes out, and it is DC's kid version of Deadpool, if you want to look at it like that.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's very meta, they're flossing, and it's found footage style in some ways, but also just a great humor-filled movie that really was good from start to finish.
So then we have Triple Frontier. This is a really good one. It has Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac,
yep.
Pedro Pascal,
yep,
and then the guy from that motorcycle show,
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
was Charlie Human or Hoonan or something like that.
Whoman's that?
He's also from Pacific Rim. I always forget that one. I always forget. It also has someone else that I don't know. It's one of those that hey, I recognize him, but I don't know who he is.
Oh yeah, he's from. Oh gosh. Oh, he's from something recent.
I'm looking him up on IMDb now. Garrett Hedlund.
Yeah.
He's from Tron.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's a really good actor. I like the ensemble cast is really cool. I feel like the coolest thing about this movie is the fact that it's a heist movie, but it's also a military movie. Not necessarily a war movie, but a military movie. So it's Jack
Ryan kind of vibes, where it's real world, not Hollywood.
Yeah. So I mean, I just in general, I love the fact that we get this heist, this kind of the town, but with military people. So we get the precision of military. These people were clearly trained as Navy SEALs and stuff like that, but they're pulling off a heist. And it's really interesting. I really liked it. I don't understand why you didn't see it. This is another Netflix one. You have no excuse. But yeah, definitely just really good, really well acted. And I feel like it also had just a really good pace for a 2.5 hour movie. So really, really good. Really good.
So another one, superhero wise.
Ooh.
Spider-Man Far From Home.
Far From Home.
Now, this is one of those, I feel the same way about The Rise of Skywalker that I do with this, where Love it as a Spider-Man film. Probably one of my favorites, because going back to it,
yeah.
did not love Homecoming. Thought it was a really, really good, but everyone's like, it's my favorite, and I'm like, that movie felt like
Definitely
a by the books Marvel movie.
Yes,
to
definitely.
me.
Yeah.
Far From Home did not feel like that. Far From Home had its own identity, and it's one of those, as a Spider-Man movie and story, it was really, really good. The biggest sin of it is the fact of letting us know that letting us know anything about Mysterio from the trailer, because I feel like if that wouldn't have been the case, the whole first 30 to 45 minutes of the movie, or the first half of the movie, is pointless, because we know that he's going to turn. I mean, we know who Mysterio is. So it's kind of one of those things that the best part of the movie is the second half.
Yes,
and that's where it gets balls to the wall. Oh my God, these effects, like it, a video series me and you both love, the Corridor Digital guys, the VFX artists react to.
Yep.
Did not realize that all of those Mysterio scenes are 100% CG. There's no practical elements in them whatsoever. And so it's one of those. It's like, oh my God, this is one of those, and especially post Endgame, like this is, because you remember how we all felt about Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp. It was like, we just had Infinity War, and Ant-Man and the Wasp was like, this is a good Marvel story, but whereas with this, I felt like it fit being after Endgame, and like it really doubled down on that. So phenomenal Marvel film, Marvel Cinematic Universe film. Really good Spider-Man story.
Yeah. I mean, Mysterio is definitely rose to the very top as far as like Spider-Man villains. Yeah. I really hope that spoiler alert, I really hope that his death was faked, and maybe we can get some kind of a Sinister Six or something in the next...
They've got to be leading up to it.
I mean, I would love that. I would absolutely love that, because I feel like...
they're already proving they have proven themselves as being able to tell good villain stories with these Spider-Man movies, because they took two of the most obscure Spider-Man villains, a Trickster and a Vulture Man, and made them grounded. And like the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio wears like a Weta Workshop Hollywood mocap suit, that is his outfit, is so cool. Like it's a modern version of that character that's true to his nature.
Definitely. And then our next one would be John Wick 3 Parabellum. I really liked it. Obviously, they upped the ante as far as like action scenes or whatever. The story was kind of just there, to be honest. Like, and there's actually some parts of it that are just like, okay, like you're just making a sequel. Just make a sequel. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to tie it together like you're trying to do. Just give me a nice sequel with some cool sequences. And that's what they did. But as far as the story, I mean, I just wish they would have done something else. It could have been anything else. I don't know. It's just the story they did have for it was just very much like, okay, it's happening. But having said that, my God, the sequences that they do come up with, like, it's very much like, the first one, you're like, oh, yeah, this is really cool. Oh, there's going to be another one. Okay. Oh, wow, this is really good. And then the third one comes along, and even though the story was definitely not there, they doubled down on like action and just the practicality of everything, which I think is always what made all of the John Wicks really good, is the practicality of everything, the really long takes and everything. Oh God, just really good movie overall.
Yeah, this will be following the trend of the John Wick films, where I watched them years after they come out, because I watched Chapter 2 this year for the very first time.
Yeah.
So this is one I'll obviously catch up on at some point. It'll just depend on if I'm going to see Bill and Ted 3 first before I see John Wick 3.
Oh, man.
A quick one that, like we've kind of said before, is a good standalone or a throwaway. Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw. 100% did not expect to enjoy this movie as much as I did. I knew, like, the last two Fast and Furious films, I'm just like, okay, these are way over the top and they're doubling down on that, whatever. This is that tenfold. Like, this is one of those, like
to a self-aware
degree, but it's enjoyable and it's entertaining and it's still wholesome. Like The Rock going to see his family, and like that whole part of the film, like the last battle or whatever, meant something. There were stakes there. Everything was established. And man, what's what I was going to say? Jason Statham and The Rock work perfectly together in this film. It's kind of like Central Intelligence, but better.
Yeah,
where you've got these two complete opposites, but they are able to work together. Now, the only issue I had with it is it is like some of the things they double down on. It's like, okay, we get it, we get the point. But it was one of those Fast and Furious movie that one and done, loved it, like really enjoyed my time with it, and it's worth talking about.
Yeah. Speaking of worth to talking about and balls to the wall action, 6 Underground.
This looks phenomenal, and you can't get on to me because this one literally just came out, and I'm 2 episodes behind on Mandalorian. It did not
literally come out. It came out like 2 freaking weeks ago.
It just came out. I'm 2 episodes behind on The Mandalorian. So what do you want me to do?
Oh, boo-hoo. No, this is the most Michael Bay movie that has ever Michael Bayed. I mean, not only that, but like I am 1000% convinced that Michael Bay should never do any other movie unless it's rated R. Like his style of action, his over-the-top action makes way more sense in a rated R movie because then you just get to see how effed up it is, and just like the first 20 minutes of this movie is a freaking car chase. The middle of it is a little bit like, okay, we're getting some backstory, we're getting some flashbacks. It's very messy, but once again, it's so Michael Bay as far as like how it flashes back and how whatever. Like, but then that when it gets in the third act and it starts getting into, the rest of the movie, my freaking God, the rest of this movie is just so goddamn good. You know what I mean? But it's not good as in like, even John Wick is a good example. It's not good in the sense of it's like, oh, this is very well executed. And no, it's good because it's like, dear God, they just let Michael Bay be Michael Bay. Like, yeah. They did not let him hold back at all.
Would be perfect with just doing Netflix and streaming movies, and because they can still be good, but it's one of those that in Hollywood people make fun of him, like of his. So like, I think Michael Bay is a perfect fit for something like Netflix because the stakes aren't as high as like a big box office close. And please, can someone make another good Transformers movie, please, Michael Bay? I'm sorry, bud, but you really dropped the ball.
Bumblebee, I mean, would be a nice honorable mention into the action category. It definitely doesn't worth to be on the list itself. But as far as honorable mention, the fact that anybody could make a Transformers movie and convince anybody that it's good is an accomplishment in and of itself. So that much I'll throw down the gauntlet on that.
And lastly, the big boy himself.
Big boy himself. 10 years in the making.
Avengers Endgame.
Oh, man. Like, was it even, like, we don't even have to, what's our personal? It's this, obviously.
Well, I'm going to, okay, so there's not much I'm going to say about this. I am going to direct you to either on the, in the description or somewhere, wherever we'll post a link. We are going to link our Avengers Endgame spoiler cast review because I feel like that clearly, like that was one of my favorite pieces of content that we've done this year because it was so fun. I had a lot of fun with some of the gags that you'll see in there, but it illustrates our like love and appreciation and just detailed take on this movie. But Avengers Endgame, something that The Rise of Skywalker I don't think can accomplish. And Marvel's able to do it in 10 years instead of 42. But Avengers Endgame is this movie will go down in history in terms of cinema of how you build a universe and give it a conclusion, and a conclusion in a way that still makes sense for us to continue on to make these movies.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely direct you to our spoiler cast. If you want to know more our thoughts about it, we kind of go beat by beat about what we thought about this, we kind of go beat by beat. So like go to the spoiler cast, go there. It's just a good movie. As far as like pacing and maybe story wise, you could definitely nitpick the hell out of it if you really wanted to. But for me, everything just made sense. There's a lot of people out there arguing that Infinity War is better than Endgame. And to certain points, I could agree with that.
It's better paced.
Yeah, it's better paced. It's more action-oriented, where this is obviously a time heist. So you got the first half where, it's making the heist or planning the heist, and then the rest is, doing the heist or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, but overall, as a story, like the fact that each character had a good amount of time, had their own story arcs and everything, that's one thing that Avengers in general has always been good at. You could argue the first one was probably the worst at it, but every Avengers, in my opinion, has been really good at everybody kind of shining in their own ways. Mm-hmm. And this one takes that and dials it up to 11. So yeah, that's all we'll say about it. So what's our TX3 action of the year?
So
Avengers Endgame.
See, I'm going to throw a wrench in that.
Shut the up! It's Avengers!
Because I have a feeling that's going to be a contender for our overall. I think that would beat it over Far From Home. So I suggest that we nominate Far From Home to be action. Because I know it's not going to win over overall with Endgame.
I see what you're saying, but that's just not how it works here.
I knew you were going to say that. I don't even know why
I totally disagree. Far From Home is a good movie for sure, and it's probably one of my favorite Spider-Mans, other than Spider-Verse. Did that come out this year? No, that was last year. That was last year. And it's definitely one of the better Spider-Mans of all time, but it doesn't come anywhere close to Endgame.
Fair enough.
I would even say John Wick 3 in certain ways is better just because of how fluid it is and like the really long takes and stuff like that as far as an action movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't come anywhere close. But
worth a shot.
We'll say a close third. Okay. Biggest surprises of the year: Cold Pursuit, Hellboy, Aladdin, and Ma. Anyways, so starting off with Cold Pursuit, I feel like, okay, here's the thing about the quote-unquote biggest surprises. I made this because these aren't good movies necessarily, but the reason why they're surprises is because of how much they didn't suck. Because Cold Pursuit is very much just a Liam Neeson movie, and if you watch the trailers, it's like, okay, it's Liam Neeson doing Liam Neeson. And then you watch the movie and it's like, oh, this is actually not that bad. I actually really like it. And it was a surprise. So, I mean, that's pretty much why this category exists, is because it's not that they're good, great, fantastic movies. It's just like, wow, I expected this to suck. I expected it to just be a throwaway movie, and it actually ended up being an okay movie. So,
yeah, Cold Pursuit looked like one of those movies that were definitely Liam Neeson. Like, this is a Liam Neeson taken kind of like we're playing up the tropes, especially from the trailer. Pretty much most of these on this list are going to be yours, so you can blow through those. The really one for me, I can't wait to hear you talk about Hellboy, is Ma. Ma's one of those that it again is a good self-contained story that was entertaining and was one of those that I knew it wasn't going to be scary, but it still managed to be creepy in some ways that were just like unsettling. But Octavia Spencer, really great actress, really interesting, just kind of mind, very simple kind of screwing with your mind sort of weird reality sort of check kind of movies. But it was it's one of those, it's definitely not Oscar worthy. It's, I would say probably a 7, but same with me, it didn't suck, and I was like, I was entertained throughout that movie.
Yeah. So then Aladdin, like I said, the main reason we even have this is because, oh wow, it didn't suck. Like, honestly, it wasn't that bad. I felt like I know this sounds weird, but it's like I felt like it could have been much worse. But I do feel like even though nobody could ever take Robin Williams' place, I do feel like Will Smith did his best and his charm works for that part. Some of the other people don't really work, like Jafar. He's kind of throwaway. Jasmine I really liked. I thought she was really good. And just overall, I was just so surprised that this didn't seem like a cash grab. This didn't seem like the worst thing of all time. But hey, we still have one more category to talk about Disney being the worst of all time, so wait for that. And then Hellboy, I'll be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not great. It's not anywhere close to the Guillermo del Toro Hellboys. However, like I said, the whole existence of this category is it wasn't, it didn't suck. And in a lot of ways, if they could have cleaned up the story a little bit, if they could have made it a little bit less all over the goddamn place, I really could have seen this as a start of a really good franchise. Unfortunately, I feel like how bad it did with critics and overall audiences, I don't know if we'll get another Hellboy in this universe. We actually might be getting a Hellboy 3 in the Guillermo del Toro, which is hilarious. Because if you think about the world we live in, where there was a Ghostbusters 2016 and then a Ghostbusters 3, and there's a Hellboy and then a Hellboy 3. Like, imagine the world we live in where that's a real thing happening.
It's easily one of those things that if that comes out, that's Guillermo going, step aside, boys.
Step aside, I got this.
I got this. It's one of those
Freaking hold my beer, man.
The only reason I want to see Hellboy is because I think of David Harbour. Because, like, he seems like a perfect fit. Apart from, I mean, Ron Perlman's definitely always going to be Hellboy, at least cinematically to me, because he's the original.
Yeah.
But he it's the same thing about Black Widow. I want to see Black Widow because of the story, but man, the scene of him like getting so happy about putting his suit back on, and they're like, "You've gotten fat." Like, it's one of those that, man, I just love this guy.
Yeah. I mean, he was definitely one of the better parts. I feel like, if anything, one of the things I did actually kind of like about it was the fact that it was rated R. It seems to just, when you're talking about demons and like, it fits Hellboy. You know what I mean? And so, like, let me be clear, there's plenty about this that sucks. But as far as the overall movie, yeah, it's really good. So, yeah, that's my thing. So if we had to say the biggest surprise for me personally, Cold Pursuit, because like I said, like you said, particularly, you said it looks like just a normal Liam Neeson movie, and it's sad because that's how they marketed it. But once you watch it, it's not your typical Liam Neeson movie. There's definitely Liam Neeson tropes, like you said, but I feel like overall it was way, way better than I thought. So, and then yours personals was Ma. So let's go on to our biggest disappointments of 2019.
So, for the biggest disappointments, we have listed the Lego Movie 2, Captain Marvel, Brightburn, The Lion King, and Dumbo, kind of together, I guess.
Yeah, we pushed those together, yeah.
The Star Wars Saga, which I'm curious about, and then the very long, really unnecessary title that I'm just going to go by, the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie.
Oh, man. So, yeah, let's start with the Lego Movie 2. This is a sequel for sequel's sake. It is so money grubby. It's just dumb, and I hate it. So, moving on.
So, Captain Marvel... Don't hate this movie. It's definitely
we're
not
my... sexist people. Thank you very much.
It's definitely not my least favorite of all of the Marvel movies. There's a lot about it I do love. I love the setting of it. I love the atmosphere, like the flashback of, going back to the 90s. I can agree with that. And the Skrulls are a super important part to the story. We find out a lot more in Endgame, which I love the fact that they did. And I actually loved what they did with the twist with the Skrulls, because I knew they were going to be bad. And... spoiler alert, they ended up not being the case so far as we can tell. But it's one of those that what makes this movie such a disappointment is the fact of they hyped Captain Marvel up to be the answer that was going to defeat Thanos, and she had almost zero importance in Endgame.
Yeah. The biggest disappointment of Captain Marvel is not the whole whammon thing. It has nothing to do with Captain Marvel herself, even though I feel like it could have been better acted, and there could have been more of a... See, the problem with having a perfect character, like Superman, for instance, is a perfect example. The problem with having a perfect character is that if you start off perfect and then you end perfect, there's no character development. Other than her being better at shooting beams out of her hand, there's really no character development. And I hate that. But the biggest disappointment is the little things that they did that make no sense. Like how Nick Fury loses his eyes is the biggest slap in the face. Nick Fury's eye getting gouged out by a freaking
Space cat.
Like, it didn't, I don't know. It was so stupid. It was just so stupid. And it's like, you took this mysterious event and turned it into a joke. That's the thing that's so, like, infuriating, is that here's this badass character and they turned him into a joke by having the reason he loses his eye because of it. Oh God, it's so, just talking about it infuriates me, because why would they do that? Is because he's a man? Like, he's a man, so he needs to be punished and made to look stupid or so. I don't know. I freaking hated it. Speaking of freaking hated, Brightburn from the trailers, from everything, looked to be like, what if Superman was a bad guy? You know, and that's definitely what you got for sure. But as far as like the story, it just wasn't that intriguing. Now, Brightburn has the absolute misfortune that I actually saw The Boys before I saw Brightburn. Even though Brightburn came out before The Boys, I saw The Boys first and then Brightburn. So to me, Brightburn is just a really dumbed down version of The Boys. Because there's even a scene literally from The Boys where, like, spoiler alert, you know, somebody lasers through somebody's head, and it happens in Brightburn too. But in Brightburn, it's just like, I don't know, like, I almost kind of saw it coming. It was just like, whatever. But in The Boys, I did not see it coming. Like, I felt something was going to happen, but then he did it, and I'm like, wow! Like, it was a big surprise. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting to me, because Brightburn is still one of those I wanted to see, because I love, like, James Gunn's style. With you saying that the whole thing with The Boys, it makes me wonder if I'm going to feel the same way. But interesting. So
in an alternate universe, if I would have saw this before The Boys, because the whole thing about The Boys that makes it interesting is seeing the dark side of superheroes, so to speak. So then seeing that before Brightburn just really ruined Brightburn, because The Boys take so many more risks, whereas this, it's very formulaic, you know, and it definitely tries to make it more of a horror superhero movie, and so I kind of like that aspect of it, but other than that, it's just kind of throwaway in the worst way in this particular sense.
Yeah, speaking of throwaway, The Lion, so you can speak more to Dumbo, I can speak, you know, I'll speak more to The Lion King. God, what a movie that is 100% Disney wanting to make more money. See, now, let me explain real fast. I don't want to cut you off. I apologize.
Let me explain to you why I lump these together. Because they're kind of two sides to the coin. In The Lion King, they didn't change enough. In Dumbo, they changed too much. In either way, it sucked. So go on.
Good point. Yeah, The Lion King is very much a shot-for-shot remake of the original, with
annoyingly so.
But the most annoying part about it is it's missing a lot of the soul that the cartoon had. Like,
absolutely.
And it's so upsetting, because you have people like this year we just had seen something from both Donald Glover and I was going to say Donald Glover and Rihanna, but Beyonce has established herself to be a decent actor. You know, she's not a terrible actor by any chance. Yeah. And Donald Glover is a jack of all trades. I mean, come on. But their performances were so flat, so soulless. And I think, to be honest with you, I think this movie would have been a lot better if they were able to convey the same emotion they were able to in The Jungle Book, which is funny, because they're both directed by Favreau, and Favreau has stated that he wanted, like, The Lion King is what he wanted The Jungle Book to be. They just couldn't master the effects, you know, the right style for the animation. But I think
Well, see, I heard kind of the opposite, where like the Jungle Book, like one of the things he wanted to do was make it more realistic, and so that's why Lion King is more realistic.
that's what I said. Yeah. Well, I may have not. Yeah.
You made. Yeah,
That's what I
okay.
meant.
Sorry.
If I didn't express it,
apologize.
yes. So, but it's one of those that it was a movie that, I mean, I saw and very forgettable. You know, and The Lion King is not my all-time favorite Disney movie like it is for everyone else. But even still, like I didn't realize till I was an adult that The Lion King is basically based off of Hamlet. It's it's Shakespearean.
Yeah.
And I was like, with it being more modern and nuanced, maybe that'll be no, it's just a shot-for-shot remake. I will say,
shot for goddamn
the
shot.
best part about it probably would be Timon and Pumbaa. I don't think you can replace Nathan Lane. I don't remember the actor who played Pumbaa,
Definitely.
but Seth Rogen and Billy, I don't remember his last name. He's
Billy Mays.
no, there was no cocaine in this. They both did a really good job of creating a new dynamic with Timon and Pumbaa. They were hilarious. Like they definitely had some laugh out loud moments.
I'll take it a step further. Any character that's not a lion was phenomenal. John Oliver was my favorite. Oh my God. Like I laughed out loud so much. 2 giraffes were caught necking.
Yeah, that's true.
So funny.
That is true.
A bunch of he's like a bunch of flamingos are just standing around. It's like but like John Oliver in general, like he was hilarious. But on top of that was definitely Timon and Pumbaa. So like I said, The Lion King did not change enough. It was a shot-for-shot remake in the sense of why even remake it? Because like you said, the animation, the anguish in Simba's eyes when he realizes his dad, it makes you want to cry. Whereas The Lion King, there is no anguish, there is nothing. The only reason you want to cry is because of how much you're hating the movie. Then there's Dumbo, and like I said, that one, it has the exact opposite problem where it changed too much, and it didn't even seem like Dumbo. It seemed like, what was it, like the Cloverfield Lane or something, where it's like, here's this movie that we just threw Cloverfield into rather
Cloverfield
than
Paradox.
it being
or
no, it 10-15 Cloverfield Lane. So it's in the Cloverfield universe, but it was like really just the very last like maybe 30 seconds that you really get
that it's a Cloverfield movie.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, but yeah, so they changed too much, and it was just like the only real difference is, yes, there's Dumbo, yes, he gets taken away from his mom, yes, there's a feather, yes, he can fly. Other than that, it's like, without the racist birds, what is Dumbo? Anyways, so back to, like you said, you were interested in this part, Star Wars Saga. So the reason why I said Saga rather than 9 is because 9 just proves how effed up the saga was. This sequel trilogy is so messed up, and 9 proves it in my eyes. 9 proves that 8 was messed up.
Yeah,
there very much was so many debates over whether or not 8 was good or not, but 9 coming out the way it had to come out because of all the corners that JJ was backed into. He was backed into so many damn corners, and the fact that half the movie is really just kind of rewriting 8 in so many dumb, stupid ways. And so because of that, this entire saga is marred by that. Whereas like Force Awakens, I feel like generally people like it. They might not like the fact that it kind of just retells certain things, but it's still, in general, it's a good movie. It's definitely not the best. And then obviously how divisive that one, and just the whole saga, it's just proven to me in my opinion.
Yeah, the last, no, it's not The Last Jedi. The Rise of Skywalker and The Force Awakens are 2 Star Wars movies that deserve absolutely to be in the saga, to be in the core canon story of what we know. The biggest problem, and so I will agree with you on this because I had this conversation. I think years from now, how we've talked about years for the prequel movies, I think that this this trilogy will go down as the worst in most people's eyes, and they'll blame Disney for it. Like this trilogy, I think is going to be marred by Disney owning it. But you're absolutely right.
The common thread that I have heard between a lot of reviewers is that at least with the prequel trilogy, there was a
clear story because it was George directing all three of them.
Exactly. There was a clear story. There was a clear beginning, middle, and end. Having absolutely no like outline as to what they were going to do completely ruined this entire sequel trilogy. Like and it could have been so much better. Could have been.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Rise of Skywalker is a really good finale and a really good film, but yeah, it is 100% like, and you know me, I was on the fence about The Last Jedi too. I was like, it's not a bad movie. I think it deserves a place. Now I'm like, there's no point for that movie. Absolutely.
So I'm so glad. Like, it took 9 for you to like get on my side.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so the Ted Bundy movie, it was one, like, I'll admit, because I definitely gave you so much hard time. I gave you so much about it's a Netflix movie, you should have watched it, and this is one like I wanted to watch, and for some reason I just didn't, and it was I guess it was more because it was, I don't know, it was just like whatever. So what's disappointing about it?
In a world we live in where we have great
in a world
where we have great and I'm gonna tie this specifically to real, based on true story movies, because like Prisoners, I think is a phenomenal movie.
Yes,
but based on true events, that's what I'll stick with. When you have movies like Zodiac, which is a very slow movie but still tells a great story, and then things like Mindhunter, which is just a phenomenal dive into these serial killers, these famous serial killers.
Yeah. Plus Netflix as well, so
it is Netflix as well. I had high expectations for Ted Bundy, easily one of the most infamous serial killers around. So them tapping Zac Efron to be Ted Bundy, I was like, oh, this might be something that I want to watch. The movie ended up just being like The Lion King, shot for shot remakes of the footage of Bundy when he was in prison, and everything like that. The scenarios, they were all, and they even play it at the very end, like to match the scene with the actual thing that they took it from. And that's their main focus. I mean, it really doesn't. It tells a story, but it doesn't tell a good cohesive one. It's basically just they gathered all this footage to make this kind of documentary style thing, and didn't really do anything. Now I will say Zac Efron as Ted Bundy, very convincing, very charming, very like he was good, but the problem I think lies with the editing and with the actual like cut of the movie.
Yeah. All right, so then biggest disappointment, me personally, I'd have to go with The Lion King. Because, and I feel like for me, the reason why it's The Lion King is because when I saw Aladdin, I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad. So, like, it gave me a glimmer of hope that maybe The Lion King won't suck or whatever. And then I saw it, and I'm like, this is just... Yeah. I won't reiterate what we already talked about, but yeah, I was just like, this is pointless. Why does this exist?
I think I'm going to vote the same because I didn't expect it to be phenomenal, and I even walked out disappointed. And it's one of those that this had a lot of high stakes. Like they were touting this, and you can see clearly that they did not get what they thought they were going to, because they have not done what they have with like Marvel movies where they tout them everywhere and like proving, look, this is what we did. They're not doing that with The Lion King, true. So I think that's going to be my pick too.
All right, so biggest disappointment for TX3 is The Lion King. So before we get into the overall movie of the year, what would you say are maybe, let's pick 3 each of movies we wish we would have seen?
So as you can tell from this episode, there's a lot I haven't seen, so I'm going to try to narrow it down to 3. Godzilla, I think, is one for me. I didn't want to see it because I really loved the Bryan Cranston Godzilla, and I thought this looked too over the top. And then the last trailer before it came out, I was like, oh no, this looks good, and I just never got around to it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the last phenomenal Tarantino movie I saw was Django, because I actually never saw the Hateful Eight.
Oh, really? Okay.
But this is one of those that we live in a world now where true crime is just taking over everything, and this plays into it because it's so interesting that it tells a story of Hollywood, like actors in Hollywood, but also brings in things like, Manson and the Manson family, and like it's Tarantino, it's one that looks like, oh my God, this is something I'm going to be invested in. And then, oh man, I would say probably Peanut Butter Falcon with Shia LaBeouf, because I don't watch a whole lot of wholesome movies that actually make me feel good. This is one of those that I really wanted to see because I know it was going to make me.
I want to feel like dirt. Damn it! Why are you trying to make me feel good?
I want to feel good, and this is one of those that it looks like some really good work from Shia. I will give a shout out to Ad Astra. I don't think I will ever see it, but it's got vibes of Inception with Brad Pitt, and it just looks really cool.
Yeah. Me personally, I'll second your Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Not for anything else than Tarantino. You know what I mean? That's literally the only reason. It Chapter 2, honestly, I don't know why I didn't go see it. I don't know what was going on in my life. I don't know. Because like the first one I was so excited for. I went out with a big group. We went and saw it. It was freaking awesome. Granted, what I've heard about it, maybe I'm glad I didn't go see it, but at the same time, I'd still like to see it. You know what I mean? And so I think that's on my list for sure. And then actually, I'd have to say it's, funnily enough, another Shia movie, but actually Honey Boy. The one where it's like Shia LaBeouf's life and he's actually in it. So it's like, that is really intriguing to me. Cause like, instead of it being like a Hollywoodized version of retelling the story, I feel like we can trust it more because he's actually in it.
He's playing his father, which is really cool.
Yeah, he's playing his father, so I feel like we can trust it a little bit more because it's like it's pretty much his retelling of it. And, I don't know. It looks really good as far as like just from a drama. Like I would wager a bet that if we would have both saw it, it might have actually won the drama of the year because that's how good it looks, All right, so let's get to the overall. So, Star Wars, yes, how could it be a biggest disappointment and best overall? Like we said, as a movie by itself, still a really good movie. Far From Home, Spider-Man, Klaus, once again, really good. Joker, I did not personally see Joker, but what I've heard about it, like, it definitely deserves to be here. And then Avengers Endgame. So the only one we haven't talked about is Joker. So you go ahead, talk about Joker.
Joker, man. What a weird movie, because it's one of those that it shouldn't exist. If DC would have gotten all their stuff together and actually made a good cinematic universe, then, I think this would have been a completely different movie.
Yeah.
But the fact that it is a brand new standalone story, which they'll probably get sequels, but whatever. Standalone story, Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker.
Bless you.
And thank you. And it's kind of one of those that you don't think this would be good. And it, for some reason, it doesn't get close to a masterpiece like The Dark Knight, but god damn, it's close.
Yeah.
It is close, man. It is one of those that it's like Joaquin Phoenix.
Bless you.
Puts on such a fantastic performance. Like with this one movie, he cements himself as being among some of the greats who have played the Joker. I mean, he deserves to have a spot next to Mark Hamill and Heath Ledger and Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, all of them. Yeah, well, we won't talk about Jared Leto. Love you, buddy, but we won't talk about Jared Leto. But he deserves his spot that he's in. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating for it to be a comic book movie, but not. Like you remember it's Gotham after a couple different pieces pop up, and it just it adds new life and information into this world and this city and this place that we've grown up with reading in comics and these different stories, and is adding content to that. It's definitely one of those movies that I'll be surprised if it doesn't get Oscar buzz.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so best overall movie of 2019. I think we can both agree on it. I don't think there's any debate about it, and we don't even have to talk about it. Cats. It's obviously Cats.
Meow. Oh, speaking of, I will throw this in there. I don't know if you have seen, people listening, I don't know if you've seen, they are doing a re-release of Cats with better CGI. I am not kidding you.
No,
I am not kidding.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. I don't remember.
Did they like Sonicify it and actually make it look better?
I guess after reviews they were like, I guess this does look kind of creepy, so they're doing something to make it look better. I don't know, but I just find that so funny because that movie literally came out this week.
When is it happening?
What's that?
When is that happening?
I don't know.
Like, are they going to wait a couple of months?
Probably sometime in 2020.
Wow. That's so weird.
Yeah.
You know, there is actually one thing that I heard from a reviewer saying how, like, they would cock their head to one side and cock their head to the other side, and the human face on it, wouldn't match it. And it's like, how do you f that up? Like, anyways, obviously that's a joke. Best personal of the year, and I feel like maybe TX3 is definitely Avengers Endgame.
It's one of those that it's almost an unfair win because, like, it's one of those movies that it's phenomenal by itself, but it also is so important that it deserves to be like people's overall, like, you know, top number one film or something like that. I would say. Yes, out of this list for sure, Avengers Endgame would win. Joker is knocking at its door. It's one of those that it's
definitely. I can agree.
It's a phenomenal movie for a different reason and a different viewing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, the reason it is because Avengers Endgame is the one movie for the entire year where it felt like it was an event. It wasn't just a moment in cinema. It was an event for years and years to come. It will be so hard for anything to come close to just how balls to the wall, how much of an event this is. The closest thing that I could compare this to is when The Force Awakens first came out. That was an event.
Yeah.
You know, Star Wars coming back to the big screen and coming back in such a big way. That is the only other time that I could think. And I'd say that this surpasses that just because of how many films were building up to this, how much, you know, whether you want to argue about how formulaic and yada, yada, it's the Marvel formula. Regardless, it's been 10 years in the making. And it's not like 10 years in the sense where we had to wait 30 years in between, you know, the last Star Wars movies to this Star Wars movie or yada, yada. No, it was 10 years with constant, like 2 movies a year, and they all were building towards this. The amount of vision, the amount of foresight that they had to. Yes, they messed up. Like, why did Iron Man come back to work when he gave up on Iron Man 3? Yes, there's definitely things like that happened throughout the series. Having said that, it's an achievement, and it was a moment in time. If you were alive during this time and space, you will most likely remember this happening.
Yeah.
Just because it's just such a cinematic moment in time. You know, it's the moment where, like, they took 10 years and they wrapped it all up, and oh god, I can't predict what will happen next. You know, the only thing I can think is if there's another movie that comes out and then it comes out with a sequel and then it comes out with a trilogy and it, like, each one, like, I just can't predict, because I literally cannot think of anything that will even come close to surpassing this as far as an event.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. What's so perfect about this movie is it's not only a fantastic finale and conclusion, it's a phenomenal beginning to go, you know, spread, like, completely branch out and do different things. I mean, the way they set up the entire movie, and especially the way the movie ends, literally leaves it open to, you know, alternate universes. And I mean, they literally do create that at one point. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it makes it's one of those. It's like, oh, how are they going to finish Phase 3? Like, how is Phase 4 going to be? Like, I can clearly see how Phase 4 is going to go, and that's a good thing. They were still able to conclude a phenomenal story, but sow the seeds for a brand new one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's just yeah, you know, because I would say that even like the original Avengers, it was definitely a moment in time, and I definitely remember that. But like, this is just so much more.
Yeah.
Because while Avengers took a bunch of movies and mushed them together in a way that had never been done before, Avengers Endgame was like, hold my beer, like I got that, like. The amount, oh god, yeah. I'm sorry, like it was a no-brainer, you know, and it was just like so those are our personal movies of the year. Let us know, what's your favorite horror, what's your favorite comedy, what's your favorite action, what's your best overall. You let us know down in those comments below. Let us know how you're doing. How was your 2019? Ours was pretty good. We're looking forward to another 2020. Our next video is going to definitely be kind of like a look forward to what you can expect from us from Threat X3 Productions coming in the future. So please look forward to that. It will kind of go over what we're going to be bringing to the table. So I'm really excited to kind of reveal certain things that we've been kind of keeping at, you know, keeping up to our chest, like, no, you can't see this. You can't see this. So I'm really excited to kind of get it out there and let you guys like gnaw on it a little bit. So I was your host, Nick.
And I was your host, Nate.
And that was our movies of the year. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Nerd Radio, where you can always talk nerdy to me.
Had to do it one more time.